Hello, Lorelings! Today we're gonna be talking about something super fun! Grave desecration! Yay! So even though March of 2021 is next month, I still feel like I'm processing March of 2020. After the murder of George Floyd, we saw a lot of protests and riots all across the country, especially in Atlanta. I've lived in Atlanta for the last 5 years, and the more I see it, the more I love it. But my favorite place in the entire city is Oakland Cemetery. Oakland Cemetery is one of the oldest cemeteries in Atlanta. It is a beautiful, landscaped, flower-filled green space in the heart of this concrete city. So it's one of my favorite places to go and walk, and I often end up taking a lot of my friends there. Now, one of the most popular waypoints in Oakland Cemetery is the Confederate Cemetery. If you go to this section of the cemetery, you'll see row after row of perfect granite stone. These stones signify the resting place of the Confederate dead. What you'll also see is a very interesting sculpture. I like to call him Atlanta's Aslan, but his real name is the Lion of Atlanta. This sculpture indicates the resting place of more than 3,000 unknown Confederate dead that were disinterred from other places around Atlanta after significant battles and buried in Oakland. So the Lion of Atlanta is a sculpture that's based off of a Swiss sculpture, the Lion of Lucerne, which is located in Switzerland and is meant to commemorate the deaths of soldiers during the French Revolution. I thought that this was a popular monument in France, even though it's based in Switzerland. So I have a French friend who I thought I would bring and show him the Lion of Atlanta and see if he recognized it, thought it was cool. The story starts to fall apart here. Two things went wrong. First, he's never heard of the Lion of Lucerne. That's in Switzerland, not France. Second, we walk up on the pathway that leads to the lion and I see red stuff everywhere. I'm not sure quite what it is until we get to the monument itself. And the lion is covered in red paint, graffiti, racial slurs, all sorts of not good stuff. As I take a closer look at the Confederate stones that we passed to get there, I notice that they're covered in graffiti and hate language too. Now at this moment, I had to stop and process what I was feeling. First was there was a little bit of embarrassment for having shown or attempted to show my friends something that I was proud of my city about and having it be defaced. There was a little bit of rage for the people who had messed with these gravestones and messed with the monument. Even another part of me was consumed with the anger and injustices that had probably sparked the desecration of the grave site. It's weird to find yourself in a place of equal outrage and equal understanding. And I'm confused with what to feel, which is why we're here talking about this today. So what do you do when you have something that so outwardly represents evil, such as Civil War, monuments, Confederate street sign names, etc., but that also has so much cultural, social, and historical significance beyond the evil that it represents? Here in the South, we have a lot of that. As much as I hate to say it, the memory of the Civil War is very much alive in the imagination of Atlanta. You know, Atlanta's moniker is the city too busy to hate. That worked out well. After the events at Charlottesville in 2017 and under a previous mayor, Atlanta underwent a movement to make some changes to how the Confederate legacy is memorialized in the city. I found this very interesting. So what they did is they got a committee together at the city level and they divided monuments into different periods or different categorizations based on time. The first time period, from 1866 to 1889, is what we call the post-Civil War or grief period. The idea is that if something was made during this period, it counts as a grief or a true monument. And so the city of Atlanta errs on the side of leaving it. The monuments created during this period supposedly are for the people, not for the values. Next is 1890 to 1930. This is the Jim Crow or Lost Cause period. This was the same time period that saw the rise of the KKK. So you can imagine that there are some monuments built during this period that were not for grieving people, but that were created to memorialize a legacy of hatred. So what the city of Atlanta says for monuments made during this era is to examine it. Examine the culture, examine the intent, examine the history. If it seems fine, leave it, but put a plaque or something that contextualizes the issue, that says that the city doesn't stand for the things that this statue stands for, despite the fact that the statue is of cultural significance to the city. Or if it's a hateful monument, take it down. We have city archives where these statues can go. We have museums where they can go and be contextualized in the proper history. So on the Jim Crow era, it's kind of a basis of evaluation for what should be done with it. And the last period is the 1950s, 1960s, and onwards. They call this the active resistance period. This is the time period where the South will rise again became an extremely popular moniker amongst wealthy whites in Atlanta. So it's assumed that monuments created during this era are probably not gonna have the best intents. Georgia law has a not-so-eloquent statement on what we should do with statues. Essentially, this law says that as long as the monument is honoring someone for their military service and not for any other actions, then it is going to stay up unaltered, except for any additional measures that are meant to interpret the monument. Don't destroy it, don't deface it, but also don't honor it. If you really want to keep it around, you can move it to a museum or put a sign up that puts it in the right context. And the city of Atlanta is working to make these changes. Unfortunately, however, Atlanta, while being a progressive city, is stuck inside of a very conservative state. And the powers to do these things rest within the state government, not in the local government. But this is all about government. What about the people? I don't think I would or could do anything that would intentionally desecrate a resting place. But in the end, when you think about it, these people are dead. They don't mind. So I don't know, I'm torn. Is desecrating graves okay if it forwards your movement? Desecrating famous graves can be a really great way to gain attention, probably. In preparation for this video, I've been looking through news in Atlanta over the past few months, and I really haven't seen any spotlight on these desecrations. Usually violence is just the first stepping stone in a social movement that gains attention, which then allows movement makers to go into more legal formats. However, if you're not getting any attention, I think all you're doing is wasting paint and probably making some poor civil servant or cemetery worker have to scrub off that spray paint. My final thoughts are that our energies can best be spent on the living, to make change through the living for the living. The dead left us in this place that we are today. If we could punish them for it, if we could change it, we might, but we can't. So let's focus on the living and let the dead truly rest in peace. The George Floyd mourner. So, to no longer believe the lie that Lion of Lucerne. Thanks for watching. All of that being said, if you have a good reason for grave desecration, please leave comments. I would love to know. I would love to know alternate opinions. From me and Afa both, thank you for watching. We'll see you next video.